Welcome back, fam. Here we are, another day in the wildest, most exciting, and most important offseason the Washington Commanders have had in a long time. And yeah, that is real talk, because every move this organization makes right now has real consequences. Huge ones, the kind that decide whether in January of 2027 we're crying tears of joy or crying out of frustration. And personally, those tears better be the happy ones, fam. 2025 was a nightmare. No sugarcoating it, watching Jaden Daniels walk off the field over and over, watching that team that had just been in the NFC Championship game the year before fall apart and finish with a record of 5-12. That hurt. It hurt deep, but here is the thing. That same frustration is the energy Adam Peters and Dan Quinn are using right now as fuel. They are in full-on accelerated rebuild mode, and there is a lot to get into today. We have 4 stories on the menu, 4 from a quiet backfield backup coming back to a cornerback with a story who might be coming to Washington to a loss on the offensive line that is sparking serious national debate and finishing with a draft connection that could change the entire face of the Commanders' offense for the next 5 years. Let us roll. Buckle up. News 1. Jeremy McNichols comes back on a 1-year deal. Okay. We will start light, but light does not mean meaningless, you hear me? Because the Commanders' backfield was in a pretty interesting spot, let us put it that way. Austin Eckler is gone, already on the older side and coming off a serious Achilles injury that cut short that 2025 season, and Chris Rodriguez Jr. left in free agency. Jeremy McNichols was another piece who could have been left out there without a clear landing spot, but Adam Schefter reported today that McNichols is signing for 1 more year with Washington. No drama, no fanfare. It is the kind of move that flies under the radar while all the big money contracts are going crazy in this offseason, but it makes sense, and I am the one who is going to walk through why it matters, even if the rest of the NFL is ignoring it. McNichols has been with the Commanders for 2 seasons. In that time, McNichols has racked up 99 carries for 482 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns, plus 34 receptions for 223 more yards. Those numbers are not going to blow your mind. We are not talking about a Pro Bowler. We are talking about a veteran running back who knows the system, who can block, who can catch passes out of the backfield, and who does not need everything explained from square one. That, bro, has value that does not show up in the box score. When there is a young quarterback like Jaden Daniels looking for confidence in quick check-down options, the offense needs backs who can read coverages along with that quarterback. McNichols understands that role. McNichols has done it. McNichols does not make rookie mistakes. That is the value. Now here's the current backfield context. Jackery Krosky Merritt, one of the most exciting players Washington had last season in tough circumstances, is the projected RB1. Rashad White came in through free agency and brings real versatility from that Tampa Bay stint. Jerome Ford also joined this offseason, and now McNichols is back. Is that enough? Honestly, that is still up for debate. Because if the Commanders want to be truly competitive in 2026, they need a running back who can be what Eckler was in 2024, that escape valve for Daniels, that comfort receiver who gets the offense out of those nasty 3rd and long situations. And that role is not clearly defined on this roster yet. What I can tell you is McNichols is not here to steal anyone's job. McNichols is here to compete, to add depth, to be the type of player the staff calls on when they need someone who is not going to blow an assignment. In a season when this team expects to get back to the playoffs, that kind of calm, reliable presence in the backfield is worth something. And yeah, we also have to talk about the elephant in the room, the Alvin Kamara rumors. Because if the Saints decide to move Kamara after signing Travis Etienne, Washington is already showing up as one of the prime destinations. That would be a next-level move. Kamara as the receiving back for Daniels would be, bro, that would be straight poetry, but that is all speculation for now. Stay tuned. For the moment, McNichols is back on a 1-year deal. Low-key, quiet, but necessary. This is how you build up the depth of a winning roster. Fam, not everything has to be fireworks. News 2, Trevon Diggs projected to sign with the Commanders. All right, let us do this the right way. Trevon Diggs is one of those names that splits opinions in half. There are NFL fans who still see Diggs as an elite corner, one of the best when everything clicks, and there are others who swear that version of Trevon Diggs is gone, that what is left is a player beat up by injuries and questioned for inconsistency. The question is, which version would show up in Washington? First, the context. Greg Allman from Fox Sports dropped a straight prediction. Trevon Diggs signs with the Commanders, and that is not some random guess. The logic is there. Washington finished the 2025 season ranked number 27 in points allowed and number 28 against the pass. That, fam, is brutal. That is what happens when a roster gets hammered by injuries and the secondary just cannot hold up. Now let us talk about what Diggs was at the peak, because if you are in that 18 to 25 age range as a fan, you might not have fully taken in those Trevon Diggs years in Dallas when Diggs was a problem. We're talking about a cornerback who racked up 17 interceptions in the first 3 seasons with the Cowboys. 17. In 2021, Diggs pulled down 11 picks in one season, a Cowboys franchise record. 11 interceptions. On top of that, Diggs became the first player in Dallas history to snag 5 interceptions across 4 games. That is real history, bro. Diggs made 2 Pro Bowls in those 3 seasons. Diggs locked in a $97 million contract. Diggs was considered one of the most aggressive, dangerous ball hawks in the league. The kind of corner who can flip the momentum of a game instantly with one read. But then the injuries hit. A knee tendon injury in 2023 knocked Diggs out of basically that whole season, and the version who came back was not the same. In 2025, Diggs played for Dallas without recording a single pass defensed. 0, that number does not lie. The Cowboys cut Diggs in December. The Packers claimed Diggs off waivers and put Diggs into a wild card game against the Bears. 1 tackle and nothing else before Green Bay lost 31-27. So what does Washington do with a profile like that? Allman's argument is that Washington is exactly the type of team that could take a shot on Diggs with a cheap 1-year, prove-it deal. Spot Rack projects the number around $7.5 million. The logic goes like this. If even 70% of the old Trevon Diggs is still in there, that is a legit addition to a secondary desperate for help. Diggs as the number 2 or number 3 corner in the rotation, with less pressure on those shoulders, might be able to find some of that old magic again. What worries me, and I am not going to pretend it does not, is this. When a cornerback starts to lose a step, the most dangerous part is not just getting beat on double moves. It is the fact that the corner knows those double moves are coming, and that eats away at the confidence. Confidence is everything at corner. A corner who hesitates for half a second has already lost the rep to the receiver, and Diggs in 2025 looked like a player who was hesitating. But this is also true. Diggs is 27. That is not late career veteran territory. There is still real time to bounce back if the body responds. And there are teams that have brought corners back from similar situations when the defensive system was the right fit. Dan Quinn brings a specific secondary philosophy that goes back to those days in Atlanta and Seattle. Maybe that structure provides Diggs with the framework needed, my opinion. If it is a 1-year deal under $8 million with no massive guarantees, that is a bet I can live with, but Washington cannot walk in expecting Diggs to be a day 1 high-impact starter. This needs to be a depth plus upside signing, not the final answer. If the front office gets that, it could work. If they walk in depending on Diggs as a top-tier corner right away, that is where it gets shaky. Let me know in the comments, would you sign Trevon Diggs if the price is right, or should that money go to someone more reliable? I want to hear what you think. News 3, Commanders blasted for losing Tyler Biadasz, the biggest free agency steal. Now, we get to the story that has been bouncing around national media, and honestly, this is the kind of decision that makes you frown as a fan and ask, what were they thinking? We have to talk about this. We have to sit with it for a second, because when Bleacher Report, a major national outlet, calls Tyler Biadasz the biggest steal of the entire 2026 NFL free agency, and the team that let Biadasz get away is Washington, that burns. And not just a little bit, that really burns. Here's the deal. The Commanders released Tyler Biadasz as a salary cap casualty. Biadasz was set to make $8.3 million in 2026 on the current contract. Washington decided that was too much. Biadasz got cut. Days later, the Los Angeles Chargers signed Biadasz to a 3-year, $30 million contract with a raise. The same player Washington just moved on from for being too expensive just got nearly 4 times that yearly salary locked in with long-term guarantees. Bro, hold up. What are we doing here? Bleacher Report's analysis did not dance around it. Biadasz should not have been cut. Gary Davenport wrote that when the center market was reset in a massive way by Tyler Linderbaum's monster deal with the Raiders that average around $27 million per year, the Chargers moved quickly to land a Pro Bowl-level center with similar talent for much less. 3 years, $30 million. Biadasz's entire deal in Los Angeles does not even match Linderbaum's annual number, and Christopher Knox at Bleacher Report was even more direct with Washington. The summary is this. Cutting Biadasz made no sense after watching quarterback Jaden Daniels suffer multiple injuries in 2025. The Commanders should be more focused on building the offensive line, not tearing it down. That is strong. That is very strong, and it is hard to argue. Look, cap management is real. I get it. In today's NFL, teams cannot keep everybody, and sometimes moves hurt, but the real question is what you prioritize with that cap space. If the argument was, we need space to invest in other areas, which ones? Because letting a 28-year-old Pro Bowl center walk, a center who just started 31 games over 2 seasons for Washington, including that NFC championship game run, and replacing that with uncertainty, that needs one hell of a justification. The apparent plan is to move Nick Allegretti to center. Allegretti is a 2-time Super Bowl champ with Kansas City. Yes, a reliable lineman, but Allegretti is primarily a guard. Moving Allegretti to center means adjusting to new responsibilities, building snap chemistry with Daniels, and being comfortable handling line protections from that spot. It is doable, but it is not the same as keeping Biadasz, who already had that on-field chemistry with the system and with the quarterback. Matt Holder at Bleacher Report labeled Biadasz the best center in the NFC East heading into the 2025 season. Not just the best in free agency, the best in the division. In pass protection, Biadasz allowed 14 pressures all year. Cam Jurgens in Philly, who is viewed as one of the better young centers in the league, allowed 25. In that specific pass protection stat, Biadasz was better than Jurgens, and now that player is in Los Angeles blocking for Justin Herbert, and the Chargers are getting that protection for $10 million a year. Bro, if that does not make your teeth grind as a Commanders fan, I do not know what will. Now we have to see how Washington answers at center. The options on the table: Allegretti at center, some remaining free agent on the market, or drafting a center in the 2nd or 3rd round of the 2026 draft. None of those options give the same level of confidence as having Biadasz back. And everything comes back to the same core point, and the pun is absolutely intended. Jaden Daniels is the future of this franchise. Period. There is no debate. Daniels is 24 years old with the talent to be an MVP-level quarterback in this league and went through multiple injuries in 2025 in situations that a stronger offensive line might have helped avoid. Protecting Daniels has to be priority number 1, not number 2, not number 3, number 1. Letting Biadasz go cuts against that priority, and I am not going to pretend it does not bother me, because it absolutely does. We just have to hope Adam Peters has a clear plan lined up to fix this, because the solution has to be better than what is on the table right now. Do you think the Commanders made a mistake cutting Biadasz? Drop it in the comments. I want to read what the family thinks. News 4 Commanders linked to wide receiver Carnell Tate at pick number 7. All right, fam. Now we get to the part that could flip the whole conversation. There is something that might have everybody in 2027 talking about a Commanders offense that is one of the most dangerous in the NFL, and that starts in the April draft. Because Washington has been connected to a wideout who has a lot of analysts very, very excited. Here we go. This is where it gets really good, because if there is one thing the Commanders urgently need to unlock Jaden Daniels' full potential, it is a true number 2 wide receiver. And in the latest wave of post-free agency mock drafts, Washington keeps getting tied to a name that genuinely has me excited as a fan. The name is Carnell Tate, Ohio State. And bro, listen up. Nate Davis and Ayrton Ostley from USA Today released an updated mock draft after the first week of free agency. In that mock, they have the Commanders taking Tate with the 7th overall pick. The argument is clean, straightforward, and hard to fight. Washington did serious work in free agency, but still does not have a clear WR2 next to Terry McLaurin. And if this offense is going to be built around Jaden Daniels for the next 5 to 7 years, that problem needs to be solved now. So who is Carnell Tate? 6'3", 195 pounds. Elite speed, top-shelf athleticism in the 2025 season with the Buckeyes. Tate caught 51 passes for 875 yards and 9 touchdowns. But the stat that stands out and that USA Today keyed in on is his average yards per catch. 17.2 yards per reception, almost 3 yards more than teammate Jeremiah Smith, who was the more hyped receiver in that program. 17.2 yards per catch in college, bro. That is pure explosiveness. That is a player who can win deep, who can create separation on longer routes, who is a real vertical threat that forces the defense to respect the entire field. And the comparison that Lance Zierlein from NFL.com threw out there makes the Commanders fit even clearer. Chris Olave, the same Olave who came out of Ohio State, hit the league as soon as possible and became a frontline NFL receiver. Tate, another Ohio State product, projected on a similar path. And you know who else came out of Ohio State? Terry McLaurin, Washington's current WR1. 3 Buckeye receivers in that tree. McLaurin as the veteran leader, Tate as the explosive partner. Bro, that is a pipeline for real. Now imagine what that means for Jaden Daniels. In 2024, when Daniels was healthy, Daniels was already putting up crazy plays with what was on hand. The quarterback creates big plays because of the mobility, the field vision, and the arm. But imagine giving Daniels a 6'3" receiver with speed who can win on every branch of the route tree. Imagine safeties having to pick between rolling help toward McLaurin or sliding over to Tate. Imagine Daniels reading the defense pre-snap and already seeing a favorable matchup. That would be a cheat code. For real, that would feel like a cheat code. USA Today spelled it out. Tate should add another explosive element to an offense that already has Jaden Daniels generating a ton of big plays. And I completely agree, this is not a developmental project that needs years before making an impact. Tate arrived at Ohio State as one of the top recruits in that class, handled the pressure of one of the toughest programs in college football, and still produced. That tells you plenty about the competitive mindset. Now, the question is, will Tate be there at pick 7? That depends on how the board falls. If the teams ahead of Washington focus on tackles, edge rushers, or quarterbacks, Tate could absolutely slide down to the Commanders. If those teams recognize the value at wide receiver and grab Tate early, Washington will have to pivot to plan B, but the connection is real. The interest is real, and the fit is too perfect to ignore. You also have to think about timing. Daniels is 24, McLaurin is 30, and heading into the back half of that prime window, Tate potentially has 10 years of high-level play in front of Tate. Drafting Tate now means that for the next 2 or 3 seasons, McLaurin and Tate are the best receiver duo Daniels has ever had. And once McLaurin gets older, Tate is already established and still rising. That is long-term vision done right. This is without a doubt the most exciting storyline of the day for Commanders fans. Because a good center can be replaced, even if it hurts. A corner in decline can be a calculated risk. But a potentially special wide receiver falling to pick 7 for Jaden Daniels, that could be the moment everybody looks back on and says, that is when this team turned into a real Super Bowl contender. I am casting my vote for Carnell Tate at pick 7. What about you? Let me know down below. Fam, that is it for today's episode. And yeah, this one was heavy, the kind that makes you think, because the 2026 Commanders offseason is not simple. There are moves to celebrate, the defensive signings, the added backfield depth, the draft possibilities, and there are decisions to question, letting Biadasz go, rolling the dice on Diggs, and figuring out the offensive line that needs to protect Daniels. But here is what I will say, and I am saying this as someone who has watched this team in its darkest stretches. The Washington Commanders are building something. Adam Peters has not lost the thread. Dan Quinn knows exactly what kind of roster is needed, and Jaden Daniels, when healthy and surrounded by the right pieces, is the kind of quarterback who can take this team where we want to go. That is not a dream. That is a real possibility. The April draft keeps getting better day by day. Every mock, every breakdown, every new connection gets us closer to seeing how it all comes together. We are going to be right here covering all of it, step by step, with the same energy and the same love for this Commander squad we have always had. If you love this team the way I do, you already know what to do. Hit like on this video, subscribe if you have not yet, and drop your comment down below. This community is one of the best places on the internet to be a Washington fan. See you in the next one. Hog Nation, stand up.